Hello, I'm EnterElysium, and let's have a look at Invisible Ink. Invisible Ink is currently a beta. It's on Steam. I think it's available for about £12, $16, and that's 20% off, and it'll go back to its full price when it's fully released. I believe it's going to be fully released in about the beginning of next year. Now, what is it? It's XCOM with stealth, with roguelike elements, set in a dystopian corporate future. I guess it's the best way to describe it, and yes, it's a mouthful. Now, options, this is why the video is in 720p. The game only does 720p. You can do larger by using full screen, but all that does is upscale it so you'd have the same effect from opening your video player bigger. So let's play the game. Let's start a new one. Story mode. Now, you get to pick a couple of characters. What your characters have to do is they have to infiltrate different corporations and steal stuff. If any of you are familiar with the Shadowrun universe, it's kind of like that, but without any of the magical elements. So there's a couple of different guys. So we have Banks, whose ability is to unlock security doors without pass card. Deckard, and he gets more movement basically. And he also comes equipped with a cloaking rig, which makes him invisible for one turn, which is pretty useful. There's Shalom. He has a rifle. However, he starts with a very weak neural disruptor. That's basically your sort of close combat weapon. It's a taser in effect. And this one is a 5-turn cooldown, whereas everyone else is a 3-turn cooldown one. And those are the characters at the moment. I believe there are 2 more possibly, but they've been taken out of the game temporarily while they're being worked on. All the characters do actually have fairly different skill sets, and they do feel slightly different to play, which is quite nice. They are fairly well defined. International, scan electronics and access computers from 5 tiles away. Pretty useful. We will go with... Let's try Shalom, because then we might get a chance to actually use a rifle, and I can show you that. And let's go with... Go with Deckard, just because that is a very sort of typical loadout. If I went with someone like Banks, then I'd be showing you, you know, security doors can be unlocked without pass card, but we can do the normal and be able to actually try and find a pass card to be able to unlock those. So you can get a couple of different programs. The programs you can get are things like generate 1 power point per turn. These programs are basically used to hack things in the level, and you need power points to do them. So 1 power point per turn is nice. That generates stuff for us to spend hacking stuff. And then you can spend it by using break 1 firewall for 2 power. And each object that you've got to hack will have a firewall rating. Simple enough. Good. Your guys have like 4 stats: stealth, hacking, inventory, anarchy. Anarchy, I think, is stuff like, you know, you can knock guys out. You can pickpocket guys. You get more money by doing etc, etc. Hacking allows you to use different programs. Inventory allows you to have a bigger inventory, which is great for stealing more stuff. Kind of one of the first things I upgrade. And stealth is your movement in effect. It basically increases your movement. So let's begin. Right, so you have 72 hours, and then you have the final mission, which I haven't got to yet, but I'll explain that in a bit. 72 hours, and you basically got to train your guys up. Basically, it's a kind of a grind, which is very weird to say considering that it's a roguelike type game. But you've got to grind in that 72 hours. You've got to work out how to get the best amount of, you know, bang for your buck. You've got to get money. And you've got to get equipment. Now you buy equipment with money, but you're going to buy equipment in levels. And you also upgrade your guys using money. So, you're trying to get as much out of these levels as you can.
Welcome back, operator.
And you get some options.
Incognito's picking up some strange patterns in the global market. We don't know what it all means yet, but it's accelerating. We should prepare for a major action in the coming days.
Yeah, so in 72
hours.
hours.
Easy. The resources are stretched thin.
So here we go.
Some lucrative contracts and targets of opportunity that we can exploit to better our position. I'll let you choose the missions as you see fit, but be careful. We can't afford another setback right now.
So there we go. We've got this mission here, which is guarded. Travel time 6 hours, so it'll take 6 of our 72 to get there. And is a nanofab vestibule guarded. Guarded is like the lowest difficulty. Nanofab vestibules, basically, nanofabs are nanofabricators. They create stuff for you. Basically, you can go there and spend your money to build stuff. And while most levels will contain a nanofab, ones that are specifically designed around the nanofab vestibule are all about this nanofab, and this nanofab will have a lot more inventory than a normal nanofab, which is very important. There's also a server farm which has hacking programs, a vault. However, that is very guarded, so I'm not going to go there. Nanofab vestibule guarded. Executive terminals, but very guarded. Now, normally I'd like to do something where we could get money before going to something like a nanofab vestibule or a server farm. But I'm going to go straight for the nanofab vestibule just because, well, we don't really have one that gets money.
We have a chance to settle an old score. There's a gap in their security coverage at this facility.
Yep, so this one has a better stock. There we go.
Nanofab somewhere.
And beautiful loading screen. Kind of like the Iron Man sort of eyepiece. Right, so corporation alarm system, blah blah blah. Here we go. Alarm level. This will tick up 1 every turn. It can tick up more if you do things like, you know, you kill a guard, guard finds a body, stuff like that. But it'll tick up 1 every turn. When this entire outside ring goes up and fills up, this number in the middle goes up. And when this number in the middle goes up, the alarm level is raised. So when it gets to 1, extra cameras turn on. It gets to 2, I believe firewalls, that's the defenses of these hacking things. Incognita is called, the sort of the internet type wireless system. All the firewalls go up 1. 3, I believe it's an extra guard, and so forth and so on. So let's move up. I'm going to move Shalem to here. As you can see, they've got this AP above their head. He's got 8. Deckard's got 10 because that's Deckard's special ability. He gets 2 more. And it allows you to move places. And as you can see, as I mouse over, the number changes to show you how much you'll have at the end of your move, which is a really nice system. I like that. It's kind of easy to see. Console. Hack this console to reclaim power. 2 power. As you can see, our power goes up. And you'll use this to hack things. Unfortunately, there's nothing for me to hack currently. But I will show you that in a minute. Now, if I move here, we can use peek. We can peek through this door. This costs 1 AP to peek. Right, so there's a camera there. Now we can hack. So let's go space. We go into incognito mode. Break 1 firewall for 2 power. We have plenty of power. Boom. The camera is now ours. And we can see this room through the camera. We can see that there's pretty much nothing in there. So let's move forwards. Okay, so that's the lift. Now, you start in levels in just a small central room normally. And then the level is procedurally generated outwards, so every level is different. What you have to do is you'll have to do whatever you want to do on the level. You can just quit early if you think you can't go any further, or, you know, it's getting a bit too hot. And you quit by going to the lift. This here is the lift. It's a 2x2, and it indicates that you can basically escape from it. Where do we want to go with him? I think we'll go here. Right, so that is a nanofabricator and that is a guard. That is a safe. Let's just hack these. Right, so waiting. Alarm level goes up. Oh, there's a guard there patrolling. Good job we didn't turn this way. Now, to get to this nanofab, we're probably going to have to be seen by this guard, so we can just go and hit him, which is something I'm pretty tempted to do. However, let's go in here. Close that door. And there's an extra safe, so let's hack that safe as well. Because when we get to the nanofab, we'll need to spend money, so hopefully these safes will have a lot of money. 150. And I can't get to the second safe, but I can get close. Okay. Right, I'm wondering where he's going to be going, so we can use this observe. Costs an AP, you can predict where the guard's going. So he's basically up and down there. And it looks like there isn't a door. There's maybe 2 tiles we can't see. And now the job is to go around, grab all you can from the level, and quit when you think it's getting too hot, or when you've, you know, sufficiently explored the level that you're happy with everything you've got. So, let's end turn. Now, you have 2 people. You can get more. There are some jobs where it's a holding facility and you go there and there'll be a possibility of getting yourself another crew member. However, sometimes it's something like... Oh, yeah, sure. Ooh, that was bigger than I expected. It can be something like just there's like someone you have to extract and you get money for extracting them. But they pay well. Ah, a nanofab. I don't think this is the full-on nanofab. I think this one is the bigger one. This one is just a side nanofab. You can tell because this is in a room to itself. Right, so... Shall I move to here? And let's just wait for them out. Now, with these 2 people, you can basically run around the level. You tend to split up to try and cover the maximum amount of level before the alarm level gets too high. However, when you get more people, you can cover more ground. So having a maximum number of people in your team as possible is very beneficial. Let's run in here. Oh, he hasn't been alerted. That's weird. I would have expected him to be alerted by that. Let's go behind him. As you can see, if we move there, it's watched. The guy will try and shoot us, so not a good idea. Now we could tase him. Knocks the target out for 2 turns. Shalom's ability is a 5-turn cooldown because he's got a salvaged neural disruptor. So one thing we'll be trying to get from here is a better neural disruptor. However, I don't want to do that because 2-turn cooldown on him waking up, 5-turn cooldown on my weapon, not really the best. However, he hasn't noticed us, so I'm happy to just move around the side. I think I can get to the nanofab from here. Yeah, and you see there's a little hidden icons facing him. So yeah, this camera's about to turn on, so let's just hack it. And that camera won't turn on for them, it'll be our eyes and ears. Well, not ears. It's a camera. Okay. Let's look for this door. Okay, right. So, open door. Now, there could be a guy here, it could be a camera. I'm suspecting it's a camera, but just in case it's a guy, I'm going to put on melee reaction. That means if someone walks through the door, because they're investigating that sound of the door opening, or they've seen the door open, we'll melee them as soon as they come through, which is a nice system. Let's hack that. Let's hack that as well. So now we can get through this laser grid, and we have an extra safe we can go to. Shalom, move to here. It's in cover, so you should be fine. Says that. And a shop. Right, so we've got a few different options here. As you can see, there are augmentations, weapons, items. All of those take up slots. I'm not exactly sure that augments should take up slots. That seems a bit weird to me. That seems to be the advantage of an augment would be that they wouldn't take up a slot. Items, of course, are, you know, single use, or mostly single use. EMP. Detonates at the end of the turn when primed, disables all mainframe devices and drains charges from items in a... Okay. Portable server generates 1 power per 1 turn when deployed. Yeah, but that's very expensive for a one-thing item, like 1,000 for, Dagger, that's pretty useful actually. Dagger's a really nice program. Breaks 3 firewalls, 5-turn cooldown, only costs 1 power. Stims refreshes an agent's attack, so basically you only attack in 1 turn. If you use a stim, you can attack twice, and they restore 4 action points. Med Gel allows you to revive a downed agent. However, there is, of course, the thing that it takes up a slot, and unless you have it on both agents, it's not a surefire thing. It feels like something you really wouldn't take. You just end up hamstring yourself by paying for an expensive med gel that only be useful 50% of the time if you just put it on one person. Unregistered ammunition. Now, all guns use ammunition. Ammunition is rare. Ammunition refills the gun when it's out, so this gun has ammo 2 of 2. When fired twice, it will not have any shots left. He'll need to refill it with unregistered ammunition. $400 for 2 shots is kind of expensive, but then it's because in this corporate universe where corporations control everything, all ammunition is kind of, well, logged, tracked, chipped, etc. Which I guess is the advantage of going straight to a nanofab, but it's corporate controlled, as you can tell it to, you know, build ammunition that's not tracked. You can also get some new weapons, but we can't afford any of them. There's things like junker pistols and so on, police dart gun, which knocks them out, high velocity dart gun, which is... that's knockout for 2 turns. That's arm penetration 1 and knockout for 3 turns. However, that has... yeah, the police dart guns are more ammo. We can't afford any of those. There are some, you know, benefits to using this. Arm piercing scanner is nice. It shots and melee ignore 1 point of armor. %chance of gaining a power point at the beginning of each turn. That's pretty useful, just more power points. I'm gonna go with buying Dagger for now. Arm piercing scanner is tempting, but I'm gonna go with Dagger. And then, if you look here, we can select Dagger and use that instead. However, there's no point in us using it currently, because there's nothing that's particularly hard to get into. Now, one thing I was mentioning about the arm piercing is, most guards, like this guard here, doesn't have any armor. But guards will get armor as the days go on, so at the end of the first 24 hours, you get to the second day, guards start wearing armor. Also, when you get guards at higher alarm levels, they start wearing armor as well. And you need to be able to penetrate the armor to either knock them out with your melee or kill them. Now, Shalom's rifle does have an arm piercing 1 ability, which means that first level of armor it ignores. But it becomes very difficult in later levels to actually incapacitate these guys. Now, we've been fairly lucky so far in that we haven't had to knock anyone out or anything. Let's end turn. But when you get to those later levels, you will end up basically being unable to knock people out. And this leads me on to a few of my complaints about this game. I want to love this game. It's very weird. Kind of have an abusive relationship with it. I want to love this game. I've really enjoyed what I've played so far. However, let's get that. I do feel that it's maybe a little bit hard. Corporate intelligence. Each corporate... this adds reputation to the agency. I don't think it adds more locations for... Let's hack the security camera. Oh, I need to close the door before I go. Closing doors blocks line of sight. Also, guards sometimes investigate those doors if they're open. So yeah, the game is a bit too hard. I have never managed to go more than one mission into day 2, and I've played maybe 10 hours of this game so far, according to Steam. And I think this is something that I was like, do I just suck at this game? I mean, I think Northern Lion is currently doing a playthrough, and if XCOM is anything to judge it by, I would expect him to be having the same or worse problems than me. I was like, well, that'd be an odd thing to pick up on a playthrough. But apparently, it's a very common issue that, you know, it's just an incredibly hard game. So there's a door here. We can go in here. Okay, this is just the same room again. Have we explored? No, we haven't explored up here. So we're done in this side of the level now. And I want to love this game. I do like the setting. I love the art style. I like the mechanics. Really, all of that is just brilliant. I really do think that it's, you know, a great, or has potential to be a great game. Now, the issue is, of course, the difficulty. Now, there is a certain amount of RNG. Because the levels are procedurally generated, they are fairly okay. I mean, I haven't had any crazy problems. But I have had a couple of issues where levels have definitely been difficult in their design. And, you know, to the point of you come around a corner, there's a guy facing there, he's not moving, you basically have to run out and shoot him, or something. That's actually borderline impossible. If you hadn't taken a shooting dude, then the guy would have just shot you. It's a bit weird sometimes, but most of the time the procedural generation is good. But I still think that it's a little bit too hard. Now, the issue mainly is because you have 2 guys, okay? If one of your guys dies, you're down to 1. And one person running around a level like this, when you want to split up to try and cover the most amount of ground before the alarm level gets too high, means that you get less resources. Less resources means you aren't going to be ready for the final boss level type thing at the end of 72 hours, and you're going to lose. And that's the problem. It's a roguelike in a lot of its elements, but the strategy level is very unforgiving. You lose one guy, you make one mistake, you get one guy shot, you might as well restart, because you just don't have the ability to get the resources you once did. And in that way, it's a lot less forgiving than even things like Long War, because in Long War you can have, you know, your team die, and technically you can come back from that. It's difficult, but you can. And, you know, if you're playing it properly, you wouldn't send your A-team. Now, in this, you have to send all your guys, because, you know, you only have 2 of them. And there really isn't a solution to that. And there's something down here. I'm assuming it's a camera, so this is going to be fun. Okay. Camera up. My camera. Move to there. And then melee reaction. There we go, firewalls that one. Bam. There we go, that's what melee reaction does. Now we can steal 80 credits and a pass card. Ah, my inventory's full, so that's fine. What you can do is we can click corporate intelligence, we can drop that. We can steal the pass card. Click the pass card, give it to him, and then I believe on the ground there should be... Okay, the ability to pick that up off the ground that I dropped isn't there anymore. There we go. Corporate intelligence. And you're out of moves. Okay. Possibly should have sent him to there and then Shalom to up here, but no, he's got his inventory full. I'm going to sit on top of the body. Sitting on top of the body means that they won't, the timer for their KO won't go down. Their 2-turn timer generally, sometimes that varies, it depends on the guy you've jumped and the weapon you used. But generally for the beginning ones it'll be 2 turns. Now, by staying on top of them you can keep that turn timer from going down. So let's look through here. Okay. That looks like a camera to me. Yeah. Let's break out Dagger. Breaks 3 firewall for 1 power. Otherwise we'll be spending 4. And he's out of action points. Okay. There's enough up there that I feel that maybe we should send Deckard as well. There's a lot of rooms, but we'll wait 1 turn just to make sure. Console database. That'll give me locations of consoles. I'm not overly fussed. Okay, the one last door. And now the issue of armor is at the end of course, the first day, people start getting armor. And if you haven't been lucky enough to pick up, okay, there's a guard there. He's watching the entire room. Now this is one of these interesting situations I was mentioning. How do we get that guard? Like if I move to here, it's watched. It is watched by the enemy. We can't actually get in there without him being alerted. So I'm going to see if opening the door isn't alerting him. I can be on melee reaction, but I don't think he's going to come around. Now, what I could do is I could just leave. Now, I think I've got enough. There's 1 safe left. Let's ignore the safe. I could leave. But for the sake of the fact that I'm just demoing this game, I'm going to show you another method.
Warning, additional guard patrols.
Okay, so I've been seen by that camera, which means a guard is being brought in. Let's hack this camera. Tase the guard. Steal 100 credits. Move to here. Steal 150. And I'm going to move him into the lift. Now, yeah, as I was saying... Ooh, he's going to be a pain to get. Where's he going next? Okay, so he's going through there. If I move Deckard to here, melee reaction is getting AP weapons. So, like I said earlier, we have, of course, 1 AP on Shalom. Let's get him to run. But getting AP weapons, it comes down to a bit of a luck of the draw. As you can see, when we went in there, there wasn't any AP weapons other than the ranged weapons. Now, ranged weapons constantly use up ammo. They aren't really the way to go. You will be using money. And if you don't find any ammo to buy, then you can't use them. And let's move Deckard in there. And away! 96% exploration, pretty good. But if you don't find a melee weapon with penetration, by the time you get to the second day, you can't do any of that knocking out that I just did. And I really feel that hamstrings you. I think that a melee weapon with AP needs to show up at every nanofab or something like that, because other than that, you're basically at the mercy of the RNG for what weapons show up. If you don't have any weapons without AP, in the second day, when everyone has armor, you can't knock anyone out. And it is possible to do levels without knocking anyone out. But it depends on the design of the level. As you saw there, we couldn't get the last safe without that guy really seeing us. He was covering the entire area. We would have had to knock him out one way or another. And it really does depend on how the level is built, which is of course procedurally generated, which does leave you a bit down to this RNG. And I do think that it is incredibly hard and needs to be toned, if not down in difficulty, at least made so that there is more player influence, because currently it is up to the RNG of partly how the level is designed, but the level design just generally is okay. But you need to be able to have certain weapons to do it. And of course, if you lose one of your team, you're basically screwed. It's very weird, because I really like the concept and I love the setting. As you can see here, by the way, we can upgrade our dudes for money. And it's all about this money. And this money really is kind of the issue, in that you're grinding in a roguelike. A roguelike strategy game that is unforgiving. This sort of thing does happen. I mean, FTL is a roguelike, but you are sort of grinding for resources as you go. However, you're sort of guaranteed, even if you take the easy route, you will get them. In this, you really have to go balls to the wall to be able to get your stuff. And a loss of one guy, one small mistake, loses you one guy, you might as well quit, almost. Because you suddenly can't cover the same amount of ground. You can only cover 50% of the ground. And it doesn't give you any backup. You've got no one supporting the other person. I'm going to go with an inventory upgrade just so I can carry more. And let's keep that. And that's the real issue here, is that I feel that it's a very good game, possibly. I really have an abusive relationship in that I want to love it. I've played like 10 hours on it. I like the aesthetic, I like the setting, I like the mechanics. The issue is there is a little bit too much RNG about what weapons show up. The arm penetration mechanic just seems to be something that shuts you down as soon as day 2 begins. And losing one guy from one mistake, which is just a very core thing to the game, just means that your game suddenly becomes a throwaway. One small mistake throwing away an entire game, which may last several hours, doesn't really work for me. In, say, XCOM Long War, which is of course similar in its mechanics of movement and similar in its unforgiving nature, but it is not a roguelike as such, you can lose one guy, you can make one mistake, that's fine, but in this, the one mistake is generally higher because there is no they might hit the whatever, they just kill you. And you only have 2 guys, which means that suddenly you're down to half your squad. Whereas in something like XCOM Long War, of course, you have many people on your squad. Shots are percentage to hit. And that is well known for being an unforgiving game, and thus, by saying that it is worse than XCOM Long War in its unforgiving nature, far worse, you can understand how extreme, I mean, we're coming from on this. We can go back to the upgrade agent slot here. Mission select, log out. It's quite nice. I do like the design. But as I say, it is just too unforgiving. Now, of course, some people might be like, oh yeah, I like this unforgiving nature, but I'm not sure there's many people who will be that much into how unforgiving it currently is. Because it literally is, you put several hours in on a playthrough, and then your playthrough just gets wiped by one mistake. Now, in something like FTL, one mistake just generally doesn't lead to a death. In this, one mistake does lead to death most of the time, and it can be very, very painful. But it is a great game in theory, and I really want to love it, and I would like to see it changed. And they're actually investigating on their forum. They've put some polls up saying, do you think it's too hard, etc. And I think 50% of the people on the forum have said yes, and 50% have said no. And when this happens on the official forum for the game, with, of course, game fans who are well known to be like, the game is perfect, don't change it in any way. Generally, when you get to the, you know, the hardcore fans, you're kind of definitely going on there needs to be change. I hope they do change it to make it a little bit less extreme in its fluctuation of, oh, you made a mistake, you're dead, wipe the entire save. But I really would like to love it, and I'd like to love it a lot. But it currently, it's up to you. I have put 10 hours in, and that somewhat indicates that maybe it is worth the money, but I do feel that I don't know how much I'll be able to come back to it keeps slapping me in the face with you can't get past the second day. It's possibly worth keeping an eye on. It's something I would love to try and play in the future if it changes that difficulty curve. And they are actually asking the question, is it too hard? Which is a nice question to ask, because Well, in my opinion, yes. Very rare I'll say the game is just too hard, table flip, but this game is currently too hard, and it's not too hard in a lot of regards. It's too hard because of a couple of things. It's the arm penetration mechanic and the fact that just the general fact you have 2 guys, you lose a guy, it's pretty much GG. This has been Invisible Ink. It's something that I have very strong feelings of wanting to love, and then having a very strong feeling that there is just 2 bits that let it down so harshly, and they're not like poor design bits, they're just game mechanics coming together to go and stop you. It's one of these things I have very strong mixed feelings about, which is odd. Anyway, I've been EnterElysium, and this has been Invisible Ink. I hope you enjoyed the video, I hope it's enlightened you somewhat, and it's definitely a game to keep your eye on. As usual, stay shiny.